All set.
Thank you. We'll open this meeting, the September 8th meeting of the Tecumseh Police Services Board. Before we start, as everyone on this screen here is in public service, I think it's very appropriate for us to follow an old tradition. The Queen is dead, long live the King. So I appreciate that. And I hope you did too. It's 70 years of service. It's an astounding legacy. On behalf of the board, we'd like to welcome Chief Superintendent Tibb and Superintendent Campisi. It's a real honor to have you here at our Police Service Board meeting. We're very grateful for that. We're a long-standing OPP municipality, and so we believe in the work, and we believe in the OPP. So it's very glad. And I think, Mr. Mayor, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to maybe say a few words of welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and certainly on behalf of Deputy Mayor Bichetti and certainly the rest of our council and administration, I certainly want to take this opportunity to say welcome, to our meeting. It would have been nice if we could have these in person, but obviously we'll have to suffice with our Zoom meetings. But it's I never had the opportunity face to face, Chief Superintendent, to first of all congratulate you on your move here to the west, the Southwest, which we call the Great Southwest, probably the best kept secret in Ontario, I'll say. And but certainly congratulations on your move here, and welcome to our community. As our Chief Superintendent. And Superintendent Frankie, nice to see you again. It's been a while, and certainly under a different venue this time, certainly. So welcome, welcome as well, and in your presence here. And I think it's really important to put a face, name together, and to the communities that we all serve. And I know your schedule sometimes does not allow you to be at 100 different places at 100 different times, just as our detachment commander today is kind of double booked. So, but we certainly appreciate the time that you are here, and it's as one of the, if not the oldest municipal OPP community in 1947. So we've had a long-standing relationship with the Ontario Provincial Police over all these years, and they serve their community extremely well, Chief Superintendent. And to the men and women that protect our communities here, we're very proud of them. They're embedded in our community. They're hockey coaches, they're mentors, they're many things within the community, and we appreciate what they do for us on an ongoing basis, and keeping our community safe. So we wanted to sort of relay that to you. And we're well positioned, well managed. Our Staff Sergeant James Smith, it's been a great addition to us here in this region, in Essex County, and in many. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Sarah, Constable Worston, but I certainly have met Blake and the incredible work that he does with our mental health unit here in conjunction with our hospital. So welcome everyone, and hopefully at some point in time in the near future, we'll be able to gather in person and enjoy our fellowship during our meetings.
Maybe get the opportunity to shake a few hands too. Thank you, Your Worship. And I would be remiss if I didn't also introduce Constable Werstein and Constable Coho. We've seen a lot of Blake over the last while, and it always gets exciting to see that when we get successes on those application forms and seeing that whole initiative move forward. And Sarah, we missed you. We had a little crisscross, so we're glad you're here today. So thank you for attending. Item C of our agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest to the agenda we have here today. I'm looking for anybody who has issues with that. Seeing none, we'll move on. We would like that the agenda for the Police Services Board meeting dated Thursday, September the 8th, 2022, as duplicated and delivered to the members hereof be accepted. And I'm looking for a mover. Deputy Mayor Becchetti, the seconder is Mark Gomes. Favor? Thank you, passed. Okay. The approval of the previous minutes for police service. I'm looking at the regular minutes of the June 9th, 2022 Police Service Board meeting as duplicated and delivered to the members thereof be adopted. I'm looking for a mover. Mayor McNamara, thank you. And Paul, thank you very much. All in favor? And that is passed. Thank you. So we can move on to our minutes for our committee meeting. That the minutes of the June 24th, 2022 Police Service Board Policy Committee meeting as duplicated and delivered to the members thereof be adopted. I'm looking for a mover. Thank you, Paul, and a seconder. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Becchetti, in favor. And that's passed. Just before we leave that, I would like to thank Paul and Margaret and Ellen for participating in that. We answered basically two surveys, one from the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards, looking for direction. I think they want to take some policy direction changes, and also from the Ontario Provincial Police itself, both of them sweeping kind of surveys. We have heard nothing back yet, but I would be astounded if we did. I think it's going to take a while to grind out all the data and maybe coalesce it and make a report of it. But anyway, we've done our part, so that's good. Under item G, delegations, Sarah Werstein of the Essex County OPP Crime Stoppers. Sarah, I wonder if you would like to do, I don't think you need an introduction. I think you can just start it if you'd like. And I think we already know that the IT people will support you in your slide presentation to us.
Perfect. Do you want me to wait till the slide pops up first?
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
It doesn't take much.
All right. Okay, so thank you for having me today. I appreciate it. I know I was supposed to be there a few times back, but some issues came up and unfortunately I wasn't able to be there then, but thank you for having me today. A little background on me. I've been with the OPP since 2008. I started my career in Huntsville. That was my first posting. I worked there for a couple of years and then I transferred down to the town of Essex. Harrow was my detachment. So I worked there from 2010 on. I was lucky enough in 2017 to be the community service officer or community safety officer rather, until COVID hit. So I got to do that for about a year and a half. COVID hit and then I was put back in patrol for about 9 months. And then luckily this opportunity arose and I started in Crime Stoppers January of 2021. And I get to do it for another year and a little bit until my tenure is up. So I know some of you have likely had this presentation in the past from past coordinators, but if you haven't, I'll go through quickly just what we're about and our history and some of the statistics that we have. If you can go to the next slide. So Crime Stoppers actually started in 1976. There's a detective in Albuquerque, New Mexico that was investigating a homicide robbery that occurred at a gas station. It went approximately a week or so and he wasn't getting any leads. He had nothing to follow up on and he decided to do a reenactment on television and he decided to put up his own money as a potential reward and also an anonymous tip line. And by establishing that anonymous tip line, he actually was able to solve that robbery homicide immediately and also an additional 6 other armed robberies and a rape case. So from there, they obviously knew they were onto something. And since then, there are programs all across North America and also internationally in places like the UK, Africa, Australia, and so on. And next slide. So what is Crime Stoppers? I think a lot of people believe that Crime Stoppers is maybe an extension of the police. However, it is completely separate. Our program has been in existence since 1985. We are a non-for-profit charity that helps law enforcement solve crime. So not just law enforcement, we also help different branches of enforcement agencies, and I can go into that later on. We have a civilian board of directors and numerous volunteers that help us. We have a paid program manager. She's currently part-time with us until we get our feet on the ground, ever since COVID as well, like most charities. We have 2 police coordinators, so obviously myself with the OPP and Windsor Police. So we're basically on loan from each police service, and our job is to help manage the tips and also help with program education and so forth. Next slide. So as I said, we are a not-for-profit charity, so we receive no government funding. We rely on fundraising initiatives. I know in the past we were very successful with the game dinner. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to put that on. I don't know if some of you have attended that event in the past, but apparently it was fantastic if you're into wild game and various types of meats. We recently had our golf tournament in Kingsville, which was very successful. We're very fortunate for that. And we're starting to get our feet on the ground with some of the activities that we used to do in the past, such as the Spitfire games. We do like a chuck-a-puck event, and I don't know if grocery packing roll will make its way back, but we're trying to be innovative with the way we make money. Next slide. So we take all kinds of tips, ranging from your most serious crimes, obviously homicide, robbery, weapons, but also information for suspicious activity or tobacco crimes. If someone's selling tobacco to underage youth, we'll take information from that. We'll pass that on to the health unit for them to investigate. We also take information for crimes that have not yet occurred. So if we like to push that out, that if somebody knows that a break-in is going to happen tonight, we can take that information and forward it to investigators and hopefully prevent that from occurring as well. And next slide. So we know, especially myself as an officer, we know that not everybody wants to get involved with certain cases and provide information to police for various reasons. Obviously, number one, fear of revenge. If it's somebody that's close in their family, they might worry that there'd be some sort of retaliation. Obviously, testifying in court's a big one. Sometimes people don't want to get involved because it's not just a one-time passing on information to police. It might involve actually having to attend court multiple occasions, potentially. Some people just are not motivated or don't care to get involved unless there's something in it for them. And obviously, some people are just hesitant. Next. So the 3 pillars of our program, obviously remain anonymous, there's no court, and you earn a cash reward. So our cash reward, it's always been up to $2,000, that's our max, depending on what type of crime has been solved or prevented. Next slide. So the best part about our program is we are able to give the promise to people that they will remain anonymous, and the Supreme Court of Canada has actually backed us in saying that we will give that tipster informer privilege. So no matter what, they are guaranteed, even under the umbrella of the Supreme Court of Canada, that they will remain anonymous and have this privilege. So obviously, like I said, we were established in '85, but it wasn't until '97 that the Supreme Court of Canada actually said that they will have this privilege. Next slide. So why do tipsters call us? Sometimes they're in it just for the money. They want the reward. A lot of people call us because it's the right thing to do. Obviously, revenge, this is a good one for us because sometimes it's other drug dealers that potentially want to take out the competition, but we'll still take that information and forward it to police. It's easier to report it to us versus the police, and obviously fear and not having to attend court. There are 3 ways to submit a tip to us. In the past, our tip lines used to be the most popular way. Most people would call in. We still do have people call in. So Monday to Friday, either myself or Lauren, my Windsor Police partner, we answer the phones and would take the tips and we submit it through our system. Or people will submit them online, and that seems to be the most popular way these days, is through our website or through the mobile device, which is another site called p3tips.com, and it's super easy to submit a tip online. In fact, I think it's easier than calling in because they can put all the information that they want. They can actually submit videos and pictures, and all of that information is easy for us as well to send to the investigators. So how it works is when we receive a tip, we end up giving the tipster, if they submit it online, they end up getting their tip number that way, or on the phone, we will give them a tip number and a password. That's the only way that we know who we're speaking to. If they were to call in, they have to identify themselves by the tip number. We don't take any information from them. When they call in, there's no caller ID. There's no way to track who's giving us that information. And the same with online. There's nothing to tell us, like an email or anything. There's no information whatsoever from that person. And then it's up to either myself or Lauren to forward it to the appropriate enforcement agencies for investigation. One key is that the information that comes in is that's just it. It's information, it's not evidence. So it's up to the investigators to actually look into it and verify whether or not it's good. And then it's up to the tipster to actually call in or send us some sort of dialogue online to see whether or not their tip is good. There's no way for us to reach out. They have to reach out to us. And then if that information is good, then they could qualify for a reward. And then we have to take that to our board of directors, and they're the ones who approve the reward amount. And then we go to the bank and there's an anonymous number, and they go and get their money that way. And we will never know who claims the money from the reward. So to make a tip qualify for a reward, it's not just on conviction. Conviction doesn't matter whatsoever. So arrest, charges, seizure of any drugs, substances, weapons, or stolen property. And even if it's just good information, we will also pay out on that. So there are 2 times when we can't accept information, and that's if the person is a victim. We have to direct them to the police and they have to report it that way. We can't accept any information from them. And then also we tell people not to call into us if it's an emergency, because we are not a 24-hour service where we can dispatch officers to the scene. So here are some of our stats from last year. As you can see, 83 arrests, 49 cases cleared, 293 charges, almost 80,000 in property, 524,000 in drugs, and 14 weapons seized. Some of those weapons range from firearms to tasers and shotguns. So obviously you can see the success from 2021. 2022 stats. So this is actually from June when I was initially going to do the one presentation. So our numbers are actually higher than that. So we are at 32 arrests so far, 22 cases cleared, 99 charges. We're at 73,000 in property, and we're actually over 60 million in drugs this year, which is pretty significant for us, and also at 6 weapons. So like I said, this was a presentation that I made back in June. So this was for our charity golf tournament, but that has passed in August. Our next upcoming event is this Saturday. We have a boat cruise that's happening here in Windsor. And then after that, we don't have anything planned just yet, but it goes kind of on the fly based on our next meetings. We're constantly looking for volunteers. So if you're aware of anybody that would like to help out, we have an online application that they can fill out to come with us, help out at our events. And the same goes for our board of directors. Actually, we're in desperate need of new directors at this point. A lot of people have left. And so at this point, yeah, the application process is open on our site as well if anybody is interested in becoming a director with our Crime Stoppers board. So I know I kind of went through that quickly, but if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask, or if you know if there's any way that I can benefit your community, please let me know as well, and we can definitely arrange
So
to do
Sean,
something.
if you could open up the screen for lovely. I'd invite, first of all, Sarah, thank you so much for your presentation. Very much appreciate it. And I know that it was a stop and start issue for a little while, and you're making this presentation in front of your chief superintendent. So it's a little added pressure, but I'll open it up for questions. Does anyone have any questions of Sarah? We've heard the Crime Stopper presentation, some of us a few times, but you know, it's just a good thing. Okay, seeing none, we want to thank you, Sarah, and I'm looking for a motion that the presentation by Constable Ornstein will be regarding the Crime Stoppers be received. Moved by Mark and seconded
If
by
I may,
Paul. Thanks for-
Mr. Chair, I believe Chief Superintendent had his hand up for a bit.
Oh, excellent. I'm sorry. You know what?
Thank
Please.
you.
Chief
It was
Superintendent.
a late hand. I got it up late.
That's okay.
I just have a question for Sarah. In my previous days with municipal service in Oliskeard, I was a Crime Stoppers coordinator. So I'm just curious what you're doing down in the Windsor Essex area to advertise the program and get the phone to ring. So beyond billboards, what have you been doing, and what do you find to be, what do you feel to be most successful as far as getting the message out to the members of the public?
Right. So weekly, we actually do a radio program with AM 800 where we, it's called Crime of the Week. So we highlight one crime within Windsor, Essex County, giving details of the crime and asking the public to call in or send information that way. So that's one way that we're reaching out. We also have a segment monthly with CTV News where we highlight usually cold cases. That's kind of where we started. And also we highlighted the grandparent scam just last month with CTV News to try to get the information out there, and obviously Crime Stoppers information as well. We're very fortunate for the support that we have with the police services as well, because anytime there is a case that they want information from, they always attach us to that as well. So it's constantly, I think people are bombarded with Crime Stoppers information. However, they probably don't even realize it's always kind of a plug-in to everything. And obviously we're doing presentations as much as we can out in the public, very active that way and through our social media.
Thanks for that. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
You know, Chief Superintendent, just very quickly, traditionally, we have called for our detachment commander or someone from command to comment after our monthly report. Staff Sergeant Smith will do the monthly report, but if you have something you'd like to say to our board, that would be an excellent time to do it, and we'll certainly open the floor to you. Okay.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yes, so we would like to then have that the presentation of the Essex County OPP Constable Sarah Werstein regarding Crime Stoppers Windsor Essex County be received. I'm looking for a mover. Thank you, Mr. Your Worship, and Mark and Gomes. All in favor? Passed. Thank you so much.
I'm a little too slow on the mute button, but I just on that, maybe Sean or maybe Margaret, you know, we talk about communication and stuff. I mean, a lot of times people are searching on the internet in different areas and that. Do we have a link? Like, I know our police services board, we have stuff there, but even with the town on our website, do we have a link to Crime Stoppers?
I'm checking right now. I can't remember.
No, if we don't, I think
If we don't, it can easily be added to the police service board page on our website for sure.
yeah, I think it's you know, at every point of information, every point of or access to information, I think it's important because there's it's just another we do that links, we link with the health unit, we link with the various other agencies, you know, so when people are searching, they can go to the town and we have a lot of information in that, and certainly in that area. And the same token, I know you might not have the staff to deliver a lot of that, but anything that you can add for us through that link, I think would be another point, certainly a point of interest, because we do have a lot of people on social media, and we got a lot of people weighing in on our site.
And I would suspect with the launch of the community safety and well-being plans, you're going to see lots of cross ties between you know, things like Crime Stoppers and each municipality. Okay.
Yeah, just a thought.
Sarah, you're under no obligation to remain. If you so choose, good for you. But we will certainly we thank you very much for your participation. And if you want to leave the meeting, that's just quite all right. Okay.
Thanks again for having me.
You're welcome. We'll move on to item H it's our monthly OPP report, and Staff Sergeant Smith, I guess you're going to make the presentation. Once again, I think we're going to do the latest report and the comprehensive report. I think this is the one you're going to use, so we can go to that. And for July, right? Comprehensive. Okay.
Thank you,
Once
Mr.
again,
Chair.
please just identify the page you want to address as you're going through, because it is a big report.
Can you hear me all right still?
Perfect. Maybe
Okay,
maybe a little
awesome.
more volume.
Yeah? Okay, I'll speak up a
There you
little bit here.
There you go.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Chair, Your Worship, I'll go over the monthly report for July 2022. And Sean, if you want to go to page 4, I think that's where Tecumseh starts with the calls for service. Not surprising, our traffic complaints head up the top, usually with MVCs and alarms. I know in the past we've looked at alarms, and I did take a peek at them. We did have a mix of residential and down in the business area of Walker Road, whatnot, up here on Manning Road as well. The bylaw, looking at that, a lot of it was parking. A lot of the issues were parking. There were a couple loud music and dogs barking. The property checks, as you see down there, those are our proactive approach to property crimes in our areas. And we are seeing an uptick. And when we report in the next couple months, I'm sure you'll see an increase there. The industrial area is being targeted at this moment, and we're working on that. So traffic enforcement, I'd like to see that every month in the top 10 call for service. And for Mr. Mayor, there has been work done on County Road 22, Riverside Drive and Brighton Road area have been, those areas have been targeted. If you want to go over to page 5, please, Sean. The total calls for service were down a little bit July 2022, which is good from a billing perspective. Overall, showing a decrease of 1.8%. If you want to go to page 6. Violent crime, we are seeing a decrease across the board there. We're seeing a decrease in Tecumseh as well. We're down to 4. When I looked into that, that involved the sexual assault investigation here. Property crimes, we are seeing a decrease, minor decrease overall, but in Tecumseh, we did see a decrease down to 35 property crimes reported in July. And most of that was in the industrial area and vehicles that were unlocked that were targeted. You want to go over to page 7, Sean? Motor vehicle collisions for July, we did see an uptick in that. Overall, a 10.1% increase compared to last year. MVC fatalities just below. You can see we had one in Tecumseh. We're sitting at 8 to date. Back in 2021, we had 8 there involving 11 deaths. So we're sitting where we were last year, and 1 is too many. And we hope that we don't have to visit that again for the rest of the year. I want to go over to page 8. The impaired driving, we are seeing an increase, and we are seeing that across the province. I know the commissioner spoke regarding the increase. I know the chief superintendent has put out messaging in regard to ride programs and expecting increases in that area. I can tell you from the 3 impaireds, 2 were proactive from officers. 1 was a result of a ride program. Another one was an officer following a vehicle where it was swerving in its laneway and subsequently pulled that vehicle over and arrested the driver. The other one involved an MDC where the driver was arrested afterwards. The driver suspensions, you see 4 there. That would result from the 3 impaired drivers that they'd have the suspension, and then there was probably a stunt driving involved in there to make it the 4 driver suspensions for the month of July. You can go to page 9, please. Our criminal code charges with the YCJA charges as well, 39 that we had in the month of July. Drug offenses, we're not seeing anything across the board in Tecumseh. Other areas of Essex County, we are seeing a bit of them. Thanks, Sean. For the month of July for POA charges, Tecumseh at 60. We are seeing an increase 35.1% overall. If you look across the board there, you can see in Lakeshore, they had quite the uptick with 180. And I can share with you, we do have an officer coming from the Lakeshore area that probably contributed to a lot of those statistics who transferred over to Tecumseh. So I expect an uptick in that area. It's always nice when you get a traffic-minded person, and it balances out both Tecumseh and Lakeshore as I cover off that area as well. So easier for me to deliver the reports when we're seeing the tickets out there and the traffic stops being done. As we know, traffic seems to be a primary concern in our communities. So the traffic enforcement underneath there, if you can just go down a bit there, Sean, just for traffic stops, warnings. And it's in line with the traffic stops with 50. The stops are 101, but the warnings 58 and tickets 60. You go to page 11, and I'm sure Blake will be touching on this afterwards. Our mental health response unit, they are seeing an increase in calls for service. Tecumseh, fortunately, we're on the lower end with 5. 911 hangups. If you just want to go below there, Sean. And since I've got the chief and the superintendent on here, and I'm not sure if they're aware, kudos to this board and to the town of Tecumseh for pushing the issue of the 911 calls. And we've seen a huge reduction in these. We used to have pretty much 1,000 a month in Essex County. We're down to 101 total and only 8 in Tecumseh this year. False alarms, we're sitting at 38. The ride programs, as stated earlier from the chief's messaging to us and messaging out to our members, we've really pushed for the ride program. So I think you see if there was a percentage here, I think it would be pretty significant. And you can see in Tecumseh, we're leading the pack with 12 here. Foot patrol hours, quite a number there with 101. That's officers out engaging in the communities, and it's interesting when you get out on foot and we can engage in the communities. And I know Mr. Mayor, we've met for coffee, and I've met some other people for coffee, and it's always nice to engage with the community there because it's an opportunity for our community to speak with officers instead of just seeing a cruiser drive by each day. Questions can be asked and conversations could be had. Auxiliary hours, looking at 35. Our unit, we are trying to get our unit up a bit. We are suffering there a little bit with the number of volunteers, and we're looking at ways of doing the hiring process and to get those numbers up sooner than later. And then the next page, Sean, with notable investigations. This involves a community street crimes investigation. And the long and the short of it is it was a residence where a cleaner was coming in and slowly stealing jewelry from somebody. And the people didn't realize until there was $80,000 worth of items missing. Our community street crimes unit went in, investigated, hit the local pawn shops, able to identify a suspect. Unfortunately, a lot of the jewelry was melted down already and whatnot, but we did identify a suspect in that and did charge them. That's the end of the July report, and I'm open to any questions, comments, concerns.
Yeah, we will. I'll open it up. I have one question I would like to ask, but is there anyone else that has questions with regard to the report? Mark, please.
Mr. Chair, through you to Staff Sergeant Jamie, excuse me, with the impaired driving charges that we had, and you were going through them, and also the ride program, just obviously without not naming anyone, is there any way we could get a number, at least of how many are Tecumseh residents, or are they just driving through our municipality and getting caught?
Yeah, good question. And I know a lot of times you see our media officer, Steve Dugay, he'll put out some messaging. And I'm not sure that it identifies, Mark Gomes of Windsor or wherever. I could look into that if you want feedback for our next meeting or from this meeting. I can always look at that and share with you if it is people passing through. I didn't really look at the names or locations.
I'm not really, obviously we don't need to know names. I was just, as a board member, kind of wanting to see if it's our residents from our own municipality, like just out of that number, 15 at RIDE program. Yeah, you know what? 2 of them are citizens within Tecumseh, right? That's all I was looking for, if that would be okay, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any other questions, please? Your worship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you to Jamie. Constable Dugay does put the individual what community comes from, even if they're stopped in Tecumseh. And maybe it might not be in your report, but I know when I look at the blotter and that he identifies where they're from, and there a lot of them are out of town, and no different than we got Tecumseh people that get picked up in Kingsville or in other areas, and so forth. But the beauty of it is at least we're getting the drunk drivers off the road, and regardless where they're from, which is good. And that on the traffic piece, it's ironic that you mentioned Riverside Drive and County Road 22. I've got a phone call from one of our residents. I tried to contact him, and in Ward 1 on Riverside Drive and so forth. I must say, and I'm glad we have the superintendent, Frankie Campisi, who's here, because I know I made that comment way back in the day. We've seen a dramatic change in terms of visibility of police on the streets and doing traffic stops, which is, it hasn't been lost on the citizens in our community, and certainly in that regards. But having said that too, County Road 22 seems to be, especially on Fridays and Saturdays, Friday night and Saturdays. And I live very close to the bypass, and it's racing. It's it is better, and I do notice when officers are on the bypass, then it becomes very quiet in that regards. But the Friday nights, if anything to be out there, it's Friday nights and the Saturday, and it's usually from dinner hour till dusk. And it's it just sometimes it's constantly and in the racing part. But having said that, I've noticed a huge difference in terms of the officers out on patrols. See a lot more cruisers out in the road, which is great. The only other, and I noticed in the slip here, is bike patrol in the parks. And one of the issues, we've been fortunate a little bit, not so much last year. I know Lakeshore has been hit pretty hard in the parks, a lot of vandalism that occurs. And I think some of the best approach, I'm not an officer by no means. I'm not trying to do your job. I don't want your job, number one. But bike patrols seem to be pretty effective. And just like foot patrol, and I'm glad to see those numbers are up. It's an opportunity also to make direct contact with, our residents, in particular young people and so forth, and just to let them know that, we're out and about. So just more comments, Staff Sergeant, certainly in that regards. But I don't know exactly what the gentleman is referring, but he did make notice about traffic speed on Riverside. And so I will get back to him on that. But that I've noticed a marked improvement, no question. I think the numbers are showing certainly in that regard. So I certainly want to thank yourself and certainly Tecumseh Detachment and so forth. And yeah, bring that officer over for the POAs from Lakeshore. We'd love to have him.
So thank you, Your Worship. Two comments. Number one, I think with the temporary closing of Tecumseh Road, Riverside Drive is seeing a lot more activity. And I do not live on Riverside Drive, but I live on Brighton, and Riverside Drive becomes Brighton. And our traffic volume is very, very much increased during the construction. It'll regulate itself down once we can open up Tecumseh Road fully. The other thing I was going to mention, and I'm glad the mayor already brought it up, was with regard to bike patrols. We spent a lot of time the last time we met together talking about bike patrols and whether they could be staffed by auxiliary or if they had to be sworn officers to do the work. I didn't think we had a very good resolution to that, and I think that's still something we really want to talk about for next summer, et cetera, is, you know, when the kids stay out later because sun sets later, and they can get, some of the parks are pretty big, and they can get themselves back into areas where they're not easily visible from a cruiser. And the best way to come up on top of kids that are up to no good is on a bicycle, running fairly quickly down those trails. So I think we'll leave it at that. But you know, that's just my comment on it. Are there any other comments, please? Seeing none, Chief Superintendent, would you like to take the opportunity to address our Police Service Board? We're certainly glad to hear anything you have to say to us.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Evening, everyone. I'd just like to go back and thank your worship for welcoming me to West Region, which I now call home, and probably will until I leave Earth, I guess, to put it bluntly. I'm not moving anymore. My wife and I are ecstatic to be down here in the warmer climate. Born and raised in Northern Ontario, so last winter was a very short winter for us. So thanks for your kind words. Just a bit about myself. I just finished 40 years in law enforcement, 25 and a half years at the start of my career was with municipal policing in New Liskeard, Ontario, Northeast Region. So I reflect back when I was listening to Staff Sergeant Smith go through his metrics, and he talked about the foot patrols and the increased foot patrols. That's something that we prided ourselves on in municipal policing, was getting out, shaking the doors after hours to make sure the business owners had locked their doors and walked the back lanes and whatnot. And more importantly, and I believe as worshiper somebody commented, or perhaps it was Jamie, getting out, talking to the business folks out there, getting to know them, and the youth that are on the street and whatnot. So I'm hopeful that Staff Sergeant Smith and Inspector Ferguson can keep that initiative up. It's good to see. I hadn't seen the report until it was popped up on the screen, and I can share with you that the metrics that Jamie just went over, as far as violent crimes down and those pieces, and in the clearance rates, they're pretty much on par with not only in West Region but across the province as well. We've seen a significant trend down in violent crime, which is obviously a good thing. Our region is currently seeing an uptake on fatal motor vehicle collisions, unfortunately. We've got an increase, and that's why there's not a week goes by I don't communicate to the detachment commanders, myself or one of the superintendents here at Region, communicate through to the detachments the need to get out and be proactive with ride patrols. That's why you're seeing an uptake in rides. It's a proactive initiative, as well as increase in traffic stops, engaging with the people, the motoring public. It doesn't always necessarily end up in a charge. It could be a warning if the officer feels that's appropriate, but it goes to what you're talking about, that visibility piece. The officers getting out there, just having a cruiser out there. I know myself coming back from Essex last night from Windsor, we had a meeting down there in the evening. You see the traffic slow down whenever there's a cruiser, got somebody pulled over the side of the road. So it's all proactive police work. So beyond that, I guess I should relate to you folks and those listening online. Since I got here a year ago, March, my focus has been on filling our vacancies, starting with our key leadership vacancies that we had in place when I got here. We just filled another 4 detachment commander positions this year. And then there's that ripple effect. So now we filled staff sergeant positions, and then it'll be sergeants and constables. Our focus is on filling all of our constable vacancies. Somebody commented that you're seeing a bit more visibility out in your communities, and that's because we've been able to fill more vacancies and get more boots on the ground. And that's our focus moving forward. I can share with the board, this is the first time in the history of the OPP that we've been actively recruiting experienced officers from across the country because of the large sizes of our recruit intake. So we're also looking at experienced officers, somebody coming from another agency that for whatever reason, they have a partner that works maybe in your municipality and they want to transfer from out west to the Windsor area. So we're actively recruiting and hiring those people with experience. And we're getting as large a recruit classes as our recruiting bureau can do. We're hopeful that we'll have intakes of about 135 recruits 3 times a year moving into next year. And that'll allow us not only to fill our current vacancies that are ongoing through attrition, but also to offset accommodated members in the workplace or absences on LTIP, WSI, and those pieces. So over and above just filling true vacancies, we're actually looking at increasing our staffing levels in certain locations across the province. So that is all good news. And we're hopeful that our recruiting bureau can meet our numbers. And you'll see more pairs of boots on the ground in your municipality in the years to come. I won't take up any more time, Mr. Chair, but thanks for the opportunity. I'm certainly open to any questions anybody may have.
Questions? Well, we thank you. I would be remiss if, oh, Margaret, please.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, and the question may not be well placed, but I'm just wondering if the Chief Superintendent has any insights into the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 and when it may be promulgated, because that, as you may be aware, would see us moving from local police service boards to detachment boards. We put our proposal into the Ministry of the Solicitor General some time ago, and then it's really been stalled, I guess would be the best way to put it. And our advisor from the ministry, I see we just had them changing out again, but he hasn't been able to shed any light on the progress with respect to that. So just thought I would float the question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any news, but I will follow up to see. I haven't heard anything new. I know things got stalled this time around because of the election, but I will follow up and through Inspector Ferguson or Staff Sergeant Smith, if we can get any updated information, we'll pass it along to you as well. But it has been an ongoing stalling of moving forward for sure. And I know there's a lot of boards across the province are anxious to see what things are going to look like on the backside of this. So I'll follow up, and if we'll get an answer back to you one way or the other.
Thank you, much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, it affects our budgeting process, which is going to start fairly soon. It's going to affect all kinds of municipal bylaws to create the new amalgamated boards and to step down our local boards, etc. There's all kinds of things that have to be considered from the municipality's point of view in order that we can come up with some kind of a structure to continue meeting like this. I mean, it's very important. Please.
If I could offer a suggestion, I'll still follow up on our end, but I would suggest you reach out to, I'm trying to think of her official title, Lisa Darling took over as the Ontario Police Service Board Executive Officer. I'm not sure if I got her title right.
She's the Executive Director.
Thank you. Actually, you stole her from us. She was here at regional headquarters here working as a superintendent for us. I would suggest following up with her, and she can do a push from her position up through the ministry as well. That might help.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? I would be remiss if I didn't offer an opportunity for Superintendent Campisi to say a few words to us.
Well, thank you again for having us or having me today in your Police Services Board meeting. I look forward to future meetings also. I want to thank Staff Sergeant Jamie Smith for well done report. And I echo what the chief has said, that I'm glad to see the increase in foot patrol, which is one of the things we discussed. So I'm very pleased with that. And I agree the comment made about putting a name to a face, as the mayor has indicated. I look forward to an in-person meeting to actually meet everybody. This is our second time doing a virtual meeting. And I continue on supporting the new inspector, Inspector Ferguson, in her role, and the staff sergeants and the members at the detachment. I'm just for your awareness, I do have monthly meetings with the command staff there. I was doing platoon meetings. I'm going to continue that. And I'm actually going to be doing a couple of ride-alongs every time I come down to the area, so I can look at every single reporting location in Essex. So when I do come down, I'll see if I'll be able to have an opportunity to stop by and have a cup of coffee with you. So, and if you have any questions or concerns, you know that you have the inspector there, but you know, whatever I can do to further enhance any questions you've got, I'm here for that. So thank you again.
We appreciate that very much. So I think no other questions or comments. I think it is appropriate that we have a motion that the OPP report for the months of May, June, July, which we dove into July, be received. Mayor McNamara and Deputy Mayor Bichetti, thank you for seconding. All in favor? And thank you. We'll move on to item I, reports. Blake Coho, you've been very patient with us, Blake, and we're looking forward to what you have to say on your grant update from the OPP. I read the grant letter, but I think it's always good to have it from you because it's a win. It's a big win, so we appreciate it. Please go on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and your worship and the rest of the board. Always appreciate to attend a meeting with you all. It's great. Unfortunately, we're virtual still, but one day. So please, at any time, if you have any questions, stop. I sent in a report for you to see, so I'm not really going to rehash all that because you can read that on your own. I'm simply going to skim over that a little bit. So just as a reminder, in Essex County, we have the most robust mental health response in a province, and we're very proud of that. We're in our 10th year, and it was a first in a province for the OPP. So as a reminder, we have several different operational teams. So I just wanted to highlight that first. So we have two teams, our mental health response unit, one in the north, one in the south for geographic reasons. They primarily do follow-up for calls for service after the fact. We have our mobile crisis rapid response team, which is a 911 response for calls for service with a uniform officer, and they're responding to calls with no follow-up. We have a rather unique youth crisis response team, or YCERT. They respond to calls for service for individuals under the age of 18. However, they do their own follow-up. In all cases, we're partnered with Hotel Dieu Grace Healthcare. And there is 4 teams, 4 full-time officers and 4 full-time, they're social workers with HDGH. So now that we're through the hard part, let's get dug into the grants a little bit. So the first one I'd like to talk about is our Mobile Crisis Response Enhancement Grant. So you all remember that because you agreed unanimously to support that decision. What that did is expand our MCERT team to 7 days a week. So we have uniform officers and a social worker responding to those calls for service. And to date, up until August 1st, we've went through $66,488. That's providing 100% of the salary to the social workers that are partnered with us. However, nothing to the police. It makes sense to us to partner with them to respond to those calls because it's better for people. We are absolutely on track to utilize the remaining $100,000, and that will have to be accomplished before March of 2023. So surprisingly enough, COVID has impacted staffing across all organizations, including these teams, but we're managing to do it almost every single weekend. So kudos to command staff here for supporting that program wholeheartedly. Now to move on to the CSP, or Community Safety and Policing Grant. Again, you'll remember this, but just for an update. So the CSP started in 2022 and goes until 2025. This supports all 3 of those operational teams, or the 4 full-time teams associated to it. Let's talk numbers on what we're doing. So from April 1st of this year until August 26th of 2022, so a small snapshot in time, our mental health teams combined have done, in varying capacity, because that's how they work, have dealt with 830 calls for service across this county. And out of that, 31 people have went to the hospital. Regardless of what you hear or believe, some people must attend the hospital because frankly, they're a danger to themselves and or others. But to put this into our perspective, we're diverting 96% of those people away from hospital. We're providing that support to them in their own home where they deserve it the most. Some of the other initiatives out of this program, we're providing crisis intervention training for our uniformed officers in this county and other counties as well, to Hotel Duke Ray's security guards, to our social work partners, and we're on track to deliver that in December of this year. It's a wonderful program. It's the most enhanced program police officers can get. That's a work in progress. And I also provided a bit of a breakdown on the associated costs, because with the CSP, we're allowed to offset some of the dedicated officers working this programs to return some of those funds to municipalities. So I included the breakdown or ratio on the percentages that you will be expecting to receive back from the CSP grant. We applied to the ministry on year 3 of the last CSP grant, and were afforded the option to return that back to the municipalities as well. That was submitted in April of this year. So we still have not received it through the town of Kingsville because a lot of those financial responsibilities are slow. So you should receive back $75,471 on our last year of CSP, and it will be similar in each of the next 3 years. So just to give you a bit of a brief update, if at any time you have any questions, feel free. I'm here for you.
Well, thank you. And I'll open up right now for questions from the floor with regard to this program. Your worship.
It's not a question, just a comment. I just Constable this program is it is so important, and in particular in the last 2 years going through the pandemic and the uptick and uprise of opioid overdoses throughout not only our region but certainly the country. This program here it saves lives, and it gets people into the proper care at the proper time. This has been a model for the province. And when COAST first was initiated here, and the buy-in was unanimous at that particular time, I remember as a former member on the FPAC committee, the Future Policing Advisory Committee, a few years back, I remember raising praise on this program when others were trying to figure out what to do, and I said, well, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just have to go to Windsor Essex, and the program is there. So I just want to extend my thanks to you, Constable Keogh, the OPP in particular, and especially in the Windsor Essex area, who have been the leaders in the province in this program. Now it's shared across, and the province is adopting this particular type of model and adopting it to other regions within the province. And it is a go-to, and it's the right thing to do instead of having police officers in emergency rooms stuck there for hours and for the safety of the individual and the safety of the people around them. It prevents that and it gets the officers back to where they need to be, you know, on the streets doing proactive policing and so forth. So, you know, when you look at the money, those are tax dollars, but tax dollars that are actually working extremely well in that regard. So to your team and to all the social workers that are attached to this group, you do wonderful work and certainly need to be commended for maintaining and then continue to grow this program, because no doubt we're seeing increases in our community of the crisis and opioid overdoses and drugs in particular. The homelessness is at a crisis level in many areas within the province, and you're the boots on the ground that really can put people in the right place at the right time for the right reason. So thank you for what you guys do.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Margaret, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the report, Blake. I guess this question, I'm taking advantage of the fact that we've got the Chief Superintendent here with us today. And given that the program is showing such successful results and it has been kind of shouldered on the backs of the grant recipients, so all of our local grants have gone towards this program. When do you think that it might become part of the regular, service and not rely on this granting process every few years to put it into effect? Because it seems to me that if it's showing that kind of efficacy, that it needs to become part of the standard offering of the service as opposed to an additional that requires this much administration. We know certainly at the municipal level what it's like to babysit these grants. It takes a lot of manpower for reporting and administering the grant. And so just wondering if there's a comment on doing something a little bit more permanent. Thank you.
Please do.
Thanks for that. This program started in your area of the province. It is we across the OPP, at least, we look to Essex County Detachment as the Cadillac model, and I can tell you this program is still being rolled out in some places, particularly in Northern Ontario, but we still are rolling it out even a couple of detachments within Southwestern Ontario as well. That being said, I am very familiar with the work that's associated with these grant writings, and then the unknown, are the grants going to keep coming, and can we sustain that program? I'll take that up with our deputy and our commissioner to see if they could approach the ministry to see if there's any light at the end of the tunnel, and with this being permanent positions to avoid the grant process. I don't ever see, I don't want to speak on behalf of the ministry. I'll get my knuckles wrapped for that, but we're all seeing such great success. And I think Blake already spoke to it, or perhaps it was his worship. These people are getting taken and given, turned over to the right resources. These are health calls. They're not police calls. Unfortunately, we get called to them. The last thing we want to see, and anybody on the call wants to see, is us having to put people into handcuffs and taking them, putting them into custody, when in fact it's a mental health crisis and they need to go to the right resources. So I don't see the program going away. I only see it getting stronger. I know we're adding more staff, both on the health side and the police side, in all of our detachments across the province. I don't see it going away, but I agree with you 100% that it could be streamlined. and made permanent, so we're not this constant funding. And funding is coming from different sources and different attachments, and it's a bit of a mix mash. While it's not in its infancy stage down in your area, it's old hat to you folks. It is still a learning curve on partnering with some of our health agencies and some of our detachment areas. But I have to think that this is the direction both ministries want to go in. But we'll just have to keep lobbying. But I will table it with our commissioner and see if we can't, at least from the policing side of things, get the two ministers together to look at some permanency. At the end of the day, it's all being funded through ratepayers, so it's just a matter of streamlining processes, really. Sounds easy when I say it like that, but there's a lot of work to be done. But it is a good point and one well taken.
Thank you.
So Margaret, that's good answer for you. Okay. To wrap this up, basically, remind everybody, oh, your worship, you want to have a
well, it's again, I think to our CAO's point, there's a huge savings of money to the Ministry of Health here. And to your point, Chief Superintendent, I picked up on it, and certainly in your comments, when you basically said it's a healthcare issue, it's health versus policing, and that's true. And so I know there's only one. I've used this analogy all the time. There's only one taxpayer. I get that, but it's the ministry that benefits the most out of this is health, because to the numbers, to what Blake had alluded to, the constable, where 96% are not going to that emergency room and tying up resources there. Those are dollars that are being saved by health. And so I think it's an opportunity for the municipalities and us to have that conversation also with the minister, both of them, Solgen and health, to say, look, I mean, it's you're saving a pile here, and so you should be funding these programs under a different envelope, which is important. Then it would free up the other dollars for other special projects on proactive policing or policing that could be done in the community. And so thanks for the point, Margaret. I know we've had that discussion a couple of years ago, especially in that regards, but we know the importance of this program and we know the success of this program and so forth. It's just a matter of finding out which envelope the dollars should come from to continue to fund this.
Okay, so the point that I was going to make is it's always good to be able to remind everybody of this so many years ago when we were offered the opportunity to be the piloting community for this. So, we've lived with this for a long time, and it just got better every year. So that's a testimony to the people who really care about this. Blake, I wanted to ask you a simple question. The city of Windsor has made a lot of press over the last couple of weeks with regard to mental health issues on the street, causing problems, causing people panhandling and all kinds of things. It's a mishmash of homelessness and mental health. Do you have a liaison with their team to look at best practices, or maybe the question, I don't want to be political here, but do they have a team like that's been created by OPP to do this type of important work?
Great question. So we work in a shared office. So my social work partner, she was gone for most of this meeting because she was on the phone with the other police team. So yeah, we're all day, every day, with all over the province, actually, just making those right handoffs for people, because people are important. They need to be supported. And without supports in place, they just end up homeless or,
Chaos
or worse. So
yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I think it's appropriate. Then we looked at the report by PC Blake Go of the Essex County OPP Mental Health Teams Grant System as updated, be received. Looking for a mover. Thank you, Mark. Seconder. Thank you, Paul. All in favor? Done. Thank you. Item J, communications. There are no communications. We'll move on. K, communication for information purposes. There is none there. Old business with regard to the status of the provincial appointments. We've talked about that. Essentially, we should note that our two provincial appointees, Mark Gomes and Paul Sweet, have had an extension that expires on October the 10th. And we await further instruction as to what we are supposed to do because there is not a launch of the new act and et cetera. So there are things we just don't know what to do with. So we need to look at that. We should note that this may be the last meeting for Paul and Mark, but we can't be certain. So the board will acknowledge their years of service and we will at a future date. And it appears that we may only have 3 members available for October 13th meeting. But in the meantime, we await the ministry, to see what they have to say about it. And your worship, you want to say something?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, on that, we sent letters from penned by yourself and myself to the ministry because if we look at the numbers, both Paul and Mark still have, potential time on their tenure on the board.
Well, your worship, I think we plowed this ground, but we can just say that it makes no sense for them to go out or call for new appointments when on the backside, there may be the launch of the act, which is going to then create detachment-based boards, which may then affect the number of provincial appointments right across the entire province. So I think it would behoove the ministry to just extend until they know what's going on.
Well,
Margaret, I saw your hand kind of flit up there.
Yeah, but that's my point. If I may, before CEO weighs in, but I think a letter to the Secretariat would be important, I think, and then CC that to our local member of Parliament, provincial Parliament, MPP Dowie, to look at the renewal. We know the difficulty it is when you're lacking 2 members, and you're at the end of the day, it's no provincial reps. We know the difficulties that is to try to manage. So just suggesting that maybe
so we could leave that with admin to maybe craft a letter that can once again remind the Secretariat that we are running at the end of this mandate and we need an extension.
Let's get her going. Give us something. Yeah. So sorry for jumping in.
Margaret, can we leave that with you?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. I was just going to take this opportunity to advise the board that as of this afternoon, we did get some correspondence from the Solicitor General's office with respect to a change up in our advisor. So effective September the 12th, our advisor is now Ron Leclerc, I believe it is. Just let me refresh here. And so we can, Ron Leclerc, pardon me. So we can contact Ron when he's our new rep next week and see if there is an opportunity for an extension for the 2 members.
Absolutely, and maybe we should also invite them to our next meeting. Would be nice to, we get these reps rolling through, and we never see them. They never come in.
We can do that.
Yeah. Okay. So can we leave that then with you, Margaret?
Yep. Yes.
Thank you very much. Then we'll move on to new business. Draft of the SEPTED pamphlet, and Jamie, I guess you're going to speak to that. The SEPTED. Did you know you were going to speak to that? SEPTED's certainly not new for us. Margaret, I'm reading off my notes. So am I correct that Jamie is going to present?
Certainly, Jamie and I have had that opportunity to discuss it. I'm happy to have his comments on it. And then I have a little bit of correspondence from Leo Gill from the Community Safety and Wellbeing Planning Office in Windsor that I can add to it.
Okay, so Jamie, we're pretty familiar with SEPTED. I'm not sure that Mark, on your previous experience, did you have a rollout of SEPTED in your previous municipality? Community safety through environmental? No? Well, then you'll be interested in this presentation. Staff Sergeant Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have much of a presentation. I know Marg and I met and had a conversation in regards to SEPTED and the community safety walks that are occurring in our communities in Essex County. And as you're aware, and Marg sat on the new community safety wellbeing planning along with myself. And Leo Gill, who is a project manager, is very well versed and he's doing a great job. So what's been happening, and I know we had issues at Optimus Park last year, but what's been happening is Leo's been coming out with a gentleman that does SEPTED for the city of Windsor and for the community safety wellbeing planning. And they've done some walks in Harrow in regards to some graffiti and whatnot mischiefs going on there. And there's planned walks in Leamington coming up. And I have no doubt Lakeshore and Tecumseh at some point. Marg and I spoke about it, about having those walks at some of those parks to see what we could do to better protect the parks from any vandalism or to move the youth along or whatnot. So we discussed that. And I know there was a pamphlet and it was a rough draft that had come out. And I believe Margaret was going to reach out to Leo, or may have already, and have those discussions in regards to that.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, just to follow up, I did reach out to Leo. He indicated that the pilot walks are all kind of committed for this year. If there was an opportunity, they would reconsider either Lakeshore or Tecumseh. We have kind of put our soft request in for next year, for 2023, when they're going to roll out more of these, particularly with respect to Optimus Park, where we've had more or less consistent problems with vandalism at our facilities there. And so, I think it's a good brochure. It's not quite finalized, so it was included in your agenda package, and just for your eyes only at this time. They're just working on the final touches of putting it together and then for distribution. So hopefully at that time we can promote it through our website and other means. It's a nice guide, actually, very kind of practical, common sense for businesses and individual property owners to just take some really practical measures for protecting themselves against acts of violence, acts of vandalism, pardon me, and other threats.
I agree, Margaret. Additionally, it's widespread in its application. So, the corner stores, how to keep their windows, get all that clutter out of the window, so people can see the people behind the cash and make sure they're not being harassed by somebody or being robbed. And all those tool and die and mold shops we have out in Oldcastle, how to properly light their yards and how to set up their landscaping so that people have clear lines of sight and can see loading docks and back doors and et cetera, to make sure there's people not lurking around in dark spots. So looking forward to that. Any other comments from the board members? Seeing none, I would then look for a motion that the draft environmental informational brochure on the SEPTED through in support of the community safety and well-being plan as presented by the Essex County OPP be received. I'm looking for a mover. Thank you, Gary, and a seconder by Paul. Thank you, Paul. All in favor? Wonderful. We'll move through. Item 2 under new business was traffic enforcement and mitigation issues. And Jamie, I guess this is kind of rolled out from things we spoke to in the past. We're going to make a presentation to us this evening, or just make the comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just have comments in regards to this. And, the traffic issues continue to creep up on us. And trying our best to address them as we move forward. And like you said, when you have construction on certain areas, that brings an influx of traffic into your area. And the perception sometimes is that that traffic is, it's speeding or whatnot, and it's just the increase in traffic. And I know we had some issues along Tecumseh Road, Lexham Gardens, and just off there with people trying to go through the communities where they're getting stuck on cul-de-sacs and there's no through traffic for them to get out, which caused some issues. So we continue to address them. I continue to speak with the officers here at the detachment, and I relay those concerns and issues that I received through Margaret and her team. And a lot of times they put in the speed spies and the trailers and try to confirm whether there is actually an issue or there's not. We still have the officers attend, like the chief was saying, with the help of more boots on the ground. I'd love to expand our traffic unit and bring them in. I know in Essex County, our past traffic initiative over the Labor Day weekend, I know we taught the region. So that's good. We've got people out there that are active in traffic. So I'd like to continue that and expand on it where we can bring in that traffic team and address all the concerns and issues in each of our communities.
Yeah, actually, you made some positive press because of the activity levels on the weekend. Any comments? Any questions?
I only wish, Mr. Chair, that people would understand when it says road closure, it's a road closure. And, I have to say it, and I don't know if Chief Superintendent, you saw it in our bladder, but we had a road closure on Lesperos Road. It was a track repair by VIA and CN, where the actual person drove their car pushing the bumpers, those traffic orange markers, whatever you want to call it, push them aside while they're actually working on the tracks, remove the roadbed, and the car got jammed with into the rail line where they had to actually crane it out and so forth. And the person was in a hurry to go to the dog park. She didn't want to follow the detour sign. So, to your point, Staff Sergeant, people just trying to race about, and we put all these beautiful signs that say, follow the detour arrows, just follow the signs. We'll get you where you want to go in the meantime. But
well, your worship, you need to take a walk down Brighton Road and watch the people going into the roundabout and making a right turn onto Tecumseh Road to a sign that says road closed, like 20 by 20 foot sign. And then they stop and look at it, and then they try to back into the roundabout. Like, it's like, what? So yeah,
just dumb drivers. Sorry.
Well, your worship, we had a very close friend who passed away who used to always say, "You can't fix stupid." So there you go. We can move on to the item number. Where are we? Item number 3. I think it's the comments by Margaret with regard to our Police Service Board budget for the upcoming year.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you alluded earlier in the meeting, it is that time of year again where we are working on the draft budget for the following year, operational budgets. In the absence of any information from the ministry with respect to detachment boards, it will be once again a status quo budget largely. And so we will prepare that. And I think the other couple of other things we do have, and also perhaps taking advantage of our guests here today to ask whether or not the community policing officer program will be reinstated. We do put some budget money to that in our budget, and for the last couple of years it hasn't been utilized because we haven't had an assigned community safety officer. So just wondering, I guess, if there's any insights there that can help us with our draft budget preparation. And then I have one more point after that, Mr. Chair.
Superintendent, Chief, any comment on that?
I don't. Mark cut out on me here and I just got my computer back up again. My volume, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, was,
Superintendent?
So for the community safety officer program, I know that we're still looking into that. And I don't have any update on that. I apologize. Had I been prepared for that question, I would have let you know. But yeah, I can't give you a definite answer on that one, where it's at. But I will look into it and get back to you.
Thank you. I didn't mean to blindside you. It actually, I just came sort of to our attention today as well. So we just thought if there was any insights, it's not a huge sum of money, but nonetheless, it's would be good to know if that program was going to be reinstated.
Okay, I'll definitely discuss that with the commander and get back to you on that.
Yeah, and in particular, Superintendent too, I think with schools in and now it's in school, and it looks like it's a great opportunity for the community officer to be in the schools and introducing himself to the students, and it's such a good program, and
I couldn't agree with you more. And that's why we haven't had any updates of where it's actually at, but I will follow up on what's happening with it. Is it being revamped? I know that we have other detachments that are not calling them community service, like going into the schools, but devising other types of programs to reach the children at the school. So we can definitely discuss that too and get back to you on that.
I believe also that there were some issues with regard to the school boards, COVID related with allowing officers access to the schools. I don't, did that ever get officially resolved, or do the boards have to speak to that? Superintendent Tibb, please.
Yeah, so I got my volume back, and between the Q&A back and forth here in the comments, I kind of get a sense of what Margaret was talking about. There are some school boards that have asked the police not to come into the schools. So that's a school board decision. And Superintendent Campisi just commented on it. So we have a couple of enhancements in a detachment. There were school community safety officers, school resource officers. So they've been pulled out of the schools from the old program, but they are engaging with youth in other ways within the community. Through other sports programs and things like that. We don't necessarily need the bricks and mortar of a school to engage with the youth. So we've kind of kept the concept and the principle of officers engaging with youth, just not right in the school system. And that really is a board decision. And it started not in our jurisdictions, but in other municipalities where they didn't want police actively in the schools. For whatever reason. So if your local school board is supportive of it, then we certainly are in support of it. It's just, it's a good investment in our youth for sure, in my opinion.
You're on mute, Mr. Chair.
Locally, we for years and years and years, we ran through the VIP program that it had great benefits to the town, and we've had to lose that because of the situation. But I'm sure that we would love to support that again in the future.
Okay, well, thank you for agreeing to look into that. And then one final note, Mr. Chair, because this is a municipal election year, and this also then is the year that all of the council's committee appointments and local board appointments also occur. There's a bit of a discrepancy in dates there with respect to our next meeting, which was December the 8th, and that I realize is going to be dealt with in the next item. However, that we won't actually have necessarily our appointments made at the time that we have the budget presentation to council. So just a reminder that in those years, it's myself as secretary to the board that makes the presentation on the budget to council, because we don't actually have the new board constituted in time for that. So just wanting to make that known, and certainly we will be going over the draft budget with the board in October as we would normally. So there'll be no surprises in terms of what's being presented, Mr. Chair. That's all I have on the budget at this time.
And I guess it's appropriate that we have spinning off of that a motion, which I can present for discussion and vote. So whereas a municipal election will take place October the 24th, 2022, and whereas appointment of municipal members to the Tecumseh Police Services Board is scheduled to take place on December the 13th, 2022, therefore be it resolved that the December 8th, 2022 meeting of the Tecumseh Police Services Board be canceled. So I'm looking for a mover. Paul or Mark, thank you. And a seconder was Mayor McNamara. We thank you. So is there any discussion on that? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So then let's call for the vote. All those in favor? 1, 2, passed. Thank you so much. That brings us to item N, which is the next meeting will be Thursday, October the 13th, 2022, and again scheduled at 4:30. And I think we are still not clear whether it will be a virtual meeting or a face-to-face meeting yet. I don't know if that decision has been made.
If I may, Mr. Chair,
Please.
we'll sort of play it by ear, as we are doing with pretty much every council meeting. Council is meeting back in chambers, and kind of a hybrid type of meeting arrangement. And so we have it on our agenda of our next senior management team meeting to talk about what we might suggest with respect to committee meetings and board meetings. So
Sure.
We'll keep you posted.
I thank you for that. So yes, Mark, please.
Mr. Chair, I just want to let it be known that the October 13th meeting, I'll be on a transatlantic cruise. Therefore, I will not be present.
You're not going to get on Wi-Fi?
They got
I'll see what I
Wi-Fi.
can do.
Where's the commitment? Okay. All right. This has been a long meeting, longer than usual, but we've covered a lot of ground, and I appreciate everybody's attention and attendance. And I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn so that there being no further business to discuss, the Thursday, September 8th, 2022 meeting of the Tecumseh Police Services Board adjourned. And I'm looking for a mover. Thank you, Your Worship. A seconder, Mark Gomes. All in favor? Done. Thank you so much for your attendance. Chief Superintendent and Superintendent, thank you so much for coming. Staff Sergeant Smith, it's always great to have you here and be so engaged with what happens here. And we'll see you all on the 13th of October.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
Have a great evening.
Our pleasure.